Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be going through the groups for the EMEA Stage 2 group stage here in the OWCS. Hopefully this time the groups don't end up changing because teams get disqualified. Very hopeful that that is the case this time around. I think there should be no disqualifications this time around. I think the teams should know the rules now. So I think we'll be fine. But I'm going to go through the groups real quick. I'm going to try to be quicker than I was last time. Last time I talked about each team kind of a little too in-depth. So I'm going to try to just cut a little bit of that down and just talk about the teams. Generally, just kind of go broad and talk about why I think certain teams should do well, why I think certain teams won't do as well, etc., etc. So without further ado, let's jump in and start with the first EMEA group, Group A. This group consists of the teams Space Station Gaming, Ex-Oblivione, Super Shy, and Schmungus. Two teams returning from the top four of the Stage 1 main event. Of course, Space Station Gaming finished 4th. Ex-Oblivione finished 3rd. And two newcomers with Super Shy and Schmungus. Super Shy was a pretty solid team last tournament in the Swiss stage that just barely missed out of the main event or the group stage. So this time around they do make it. Schmungus, the streamer dream team with Boker, ML7, and SK, and Zergy, and QRXU. I actually am not familiar with QRXU, so I don't know if it's pronounced a different way, but that team made it somehow, despite all odds, so good for them. But obviously this group is headlined by SSG and Ex-Oblivione, two teams that finish in the top 4 in the first stage. SSG makes no changes to their roster. They come in with the exact same squad they had last time around, and so far it has worked pretty well. They went undefeated in the Swiss stage, 11-0, and so they go into this as the number 1 overall seed. Ex-Oblivione did have one notable change, of course, which is that they lost their tank player Chase, who left for Ents, and so they brought in Don and Twolz, I believe is how you pronounce it. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's 2 L's. Regardless, they brought in a tank duo, which actually comes over from the former Quick Esports roster, that also had a pretty good run in the OWCS last time around. Obviously, they upset Rock Esports. They made it into the group stages, all that type of stuff. So they added some new pieces to this team after losing one of their players. But generally speaking, mostly the same roster. Maybe slight downgrade in the tank role, but I don't think it should be too big of a deal. Plus, they have now 2 tanks. They can ensure, if it's a main tank meta, that you can play Don. If it's an off-tank meta, you have someone else to cover in as well. So pretty solid roster here. I do like this team quite a bit. I still think they should be pretty good, even with those changes. And I think they are definitely the top 2 teams in this group. I don't really see anything changing to make it where SSG or EXO don't move on. Schmungus is the team that I would love to see do well, just because it's a stream team and it's really cool to have a bunch of streamers make it this far. But obviously when they barely made it in, they didn't expect to make it in. And when you have to go up against teams like SSG and EXO, it's pretty tough at that point to find some of that same level of success. Super Shy is an interesting team. I think they kind of, unfortunate that they ended up in this group. EXO kind of having a somewhat rough run in the Swiss stage, because I believe in the Swiss stage they played SSG, Ents, and Twisted Minds, so they lost to the top 3 teams in the tournament. So I still think they're probably better than 8th overall. That's just where they end up because of their performance, but I think they should be the 2 teams to look at. So Super Shy, to me, obviously a little unfortunate for them. There's a couple of changes to this team from what I recall. I don't know everybody that was on this roster originally, but Will was not. He comes over, I believe he may have been on the old Sheer Cold roster, and so he comes over to Super Shy for this one. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how this group goes. I didn't get to see Super Shy play in the previous stage. I didn't watch all of the Swiss bracket matches, but I know Super Shy was super popular, so I'm excited to see what they're able to do this time around, but I just think you kind of ended up in quite possibly the worst possible group to end up in if you're Super Shy or Schmungus. It's just you're with two of the top teams in the region. I'd put EXO still top 4 right now, even if they are the 8th seed right now. I still think they're better than a lot of the other teams here, so I'd say pretty confidently that SSG and EXO should be the two teams that make it out of this group and move on to the actual main event in a couple of weeks. Next, let's talk about Group B. Group B is headlined by the 2 seed ENTS. Consistency for them. They finished second in the Swiss stage last time, which meant that they were the top seed in Group B. They finished second in the main event. They're quite the second place finishing team. Like I said, only major change they make is they add Chase as a tank player, so they improve their tank lineup, and they pair him with Vistola. But you still have the same DPS of Kai and Kev, so you still have Ghost, Masa, and Crimson on your support line. The other 3 teams in this group, you have Team Peps, you have a one-man army or AOMA, and Sheer Cold. I want to note this Sheer Cold roster is very different from the Sheer Cold roster from last time around. There is not a single player returning from the previous Sheer Cold roster that made it into the top 8 last time around. So this is a very different team. All of the players were not on this team before, so you can't really look at what Sheer Cold did before and use that as basis to think that their team is as good or whatnot, right? It's a very different team. So keep that in mind when I'm talking about this group. But I think this is another group that I feel pretty good that it's going to be won by the top 2 teams in the group. ENTS is still very good. They still have a lot of really strong players. They basically poached one of the best tank players in the game to bring a very solid kind of consistent piece to that tank duo. Vistola is very, very good. He doesn't play everything, so now you have someone who can play some of the things that Vistola can't. You have, more competent Winston play, more, really strong Orisa play, even though Vistola is actually very good at Orisa, so I don't know why that was the example I used. But the idea basically is that you have a much more well-rounded team now. You have someone who can play more things, and you have a tank duo now that covers basically everything you could ever want. The ball, the Doomfist, all that type of stuff now is way more consistent there. And I think that's why they really wanted Chase on this team. I think it's a good addition. I think this team will be pretty good still. And then I think Team Peps moves on. They made some changes. They hold on to most of the same pieces. The places where they make changes, of course, are Exodial comes over. I think he was on the old Sheer Cold roster, if memory serves me correctly. So he comes in and replaces Hybrid in that hit scan role. They bring in Tread in the tank role. Tread formerly played on Timeless Obsidian in North America. So that was the team that Dove had in North America. And then they get rid of Cronus from this team, and they bring in Yoham and Level 1 Crook, who I also believe were on Sheer Cold. So they brought in 3 players from that Sheer Cold roster to kind of help bolster this team. A little more flexibility in the tank line, maybe a little bit more kind of complete support duo, and then you also just get a little bit, a change a bit in your DPS line. And so I think this team should be pretty good. I think this team should be pretty similar to where they were before. I don't think they're an incredible team, but I think they're good enough to have some good results, relatively speaking, and I think they're going to be fine to move out of this group. AOMA returns. They were a team that made it to the group stage last time. Mostly the same roster. They do have a slight change in their support line. Streber replacing ANJ, and then they also brought in Wex, who was not on the team before. Other than that, same team. I was not that impressed with them last time, so I don't think they're going to be amazing. And like I said, Sheer Cold is an entirely new roster. A lot of these players coming from all sorts of teams. Romani was playing, I think, on Left, Right, Good Night last time. I don't remember exactly, but I believe that's where he was before. But the rest of the team, of course, just comes from all different places all across EU. So I think this is, once again, pretty clear-cut. Top 2 teams should make it out with ENTS and Team Peps. I think they're the 2 best teams in this group. I don't think Team Peps is, I think it's different between Team Peps and, say, EXO from the last group, in the sense that I think that ENCE is far and away the best team in this group. I think ENCE is just that good. I think Team Peps can beat Ioma, can beat Sheer Cold pretty easily. I don't think they're going to find much success against ENCE, though they actually did play pretty close during the Swiss bracket, so maybe they can keep that up. Whereas with Group A, I actually think that as good as SSG is, I think EXO has had a lot of success against them so far, at least in Stage 1. And so I wouldn't write that one off as potentially being an upset, if you want to call it that, with EXO potentially winning that group. But I still think ENCE and Peps in this group, in that order, should be the teams that make it out. Next, we have Group C. This is an interesting group. I think this is the most competitive group. And I think there's a lot of really good teams here. So you can take a look. You can see this is the group headlined by Twisted Minds, the team that won the first stage of the EMEA stuff this year. They do make a little bit of change to their roster. They bring in Admiral instead of Kelix, and then they keep Slay, and they get rid of Sky Rippa. I know they're both listed on the roster still, but as far as I know, Kelix and Sky Rippa will not be competing. And then in the future, even, not yet, but in the future, they also are bringing in Kellen and Vigilante for future stages. So they're not going to be playing yet, so we won't talk about them, but they're definitely setting themselves up to potentially be a much stronger team, a much more well-rounded team for future competition. So that'll be interesting to watch. The other teams in this group, we have D Impero, a team that was supposed to be competing in the last group stage, but got disqualified. So they made a few changes to their roster. China, Chef, and EGS are the three that remain. And then they bring in a French trio of Kyo, Crocs, and Gogo to round that roster out. Flex ODX was also competing before. As far as I know, the only change they made was that they brought in Unto to replace Tricky. But other than that, the team is the same. And then you have Umbrella Academy. Now, this Umbrella Academy team, to me, is very interesting. And I think they are probably better than 14th, but we'll see. But this is the majority of the former Rock Esports roster. Obviously, Rock Esports, as we can go through here, are not present. They disbanded, kind of. They basically wanted to make changes to their roster with Checkmate Izayaki still on the team, and then bring in new players around them, and they just couldn't get it to work. So the players that they got rid of, Rojo, TVNT, AOI, made a team with Gucci and Sile, and it's Umbrella Academy. So they bring in, of course, the points they had before, that Rojo, TVNT, and AOI brought in. I don't think Gucci had any, and Sile was on Left, Right, Good Night. So this is a team that's interesting to look at. This, to me, is the toughest group for that reason, because I think you have a team that had a very good run last time around until the group stage where they just got bounced. 06 just got completely swept in that regard. And then you have two teams, a D Impero team that has been playing pretty well so far in this current kind of stage 2, but we didn't see in stage 1 in the main event or in the group stage. And a Flex ODX team that did not really look all that great last time around, but who's technically above Umbrella Academy. So I think it's an interesting group. I think it will, of course, be headlined by Twisted Minds. I think Twisted Minds shouldn't have much trouble getting out of this group. But I want to say I think Umbrella Academy is the better team when compared to D Impero and Flexo. But I genuinely don't know. The name value on Umbrella Academy to me is bigger. Rojo is a player who has been really hyped up for a while. He's kind of been disappointing in OWCS so far, but still a name who's been pretty good. I mean, this, Rock Esports was a very high finishing team in the Swiss stage and stage 1, so seeing them, basically the majority of the same core, go from 3rd to 14th, it's really hard to gauge where this team is. So I think they are better than Flexo. I don't think Flexo is going to be really one of the teams to watch here. I just think that they are not nearly as strong. But I think Umbrella Academy is an interesting team to watch to see if they can potentially jump over their opposition. And it's cool that we get to see Twisted Minds and Umbrella Academy play first in this group. They're the first game in this group. And I like it because, of course, it's the two kind of Saudi Arabian teams. So I think for that reason, it's cool to kind of see like a match between some of the Saudi Arabian talent and some of the European talent around them. So this is a tough one to call, just with everything going on, all the factors that go into it. I'm going to go with Twisted Minds and Umbrella Academy. D Impero has been impressive, and that's why I struggle to say that I don't think they're going to make it. But I just have more faith in what I've seen from Umbrella Academy. Oh, I don't know. Why am I struggling to say Umbrella Academy so much? Too many letters. But I think I feel slightly better about UA moving on than D Impero. And I just think when push comes to shove, I think part of Umbrella Academy's struggles may have just come from the fact that this team was obviously Rojo, TVNT, AOI have played together for a while, but they came together pretty late. And so some of their struggles may have just been, we just got unlucky. We basically pulled our team together very, very late, and we haven't had the time to really kind of develop the synergy we need. And I think you give them a little more time, I think they'll be fine. And I think they'll make it out of this group. But it makes this group, in my opinion, the most interesting to kind of follow and see what happens. Final group is Group D. This one is headlined by no teams that anyone would recognize from the previous group stages and previous main event. None of the main event teams from Stage 1 are in this group. Technically. But I'll talk about that in a second. The top-seeded team here is this unnamed team led by Abik, who is a British support player. They will probably have a name at some point, but for now, when I'm recording this video, they have not announced the name of their team, as far as I'm aware. But this team, you can see some players that come from other places. I want to say Abik was on Quick. I could be wrong. I'm double checking now just so I know. But I know that Abik was there. I believe Psycho was on Students of the Games. He was playing in North America. And I am correct. That is where Abik was. He was on Quick Esports. So a couple of players from those other teams. I don't know where Lauren was. I don't think Ailsu was on a team. I could be wrong. Lauren, I don't know where they were. If they were even on a team. I don't think they were on a team in OWCS. The point is, a lot of players come from a bunch of different places. Ailsu is a player that's been around a while, a name I recognize, but has not been in OWCS as far as I'm aware. So kind of a team that really kind of threw everything together late, came together of just an assortment of EU players. Ataraxia, the next team in this group. This is actually, basically, last stage's Quick Esports roster. So it's mostly the same team. Like I said, Abik was on this team, is no longer on this team. But Phi, Shax, Daned, they were on Quick Esports. They bring in Sauna instead of whoever they had before, who I'm drawing a blank of. It was Grathen. The rest of the team is the same. For the DPS line, for the tanks, they lose Don and Twolls. Of course, they go over to Ex Oblivione, so they bring in Erikek there. And then for the support line, Dala and Gala. Actually, Dala's the only one that returns from their support line before. They had Abik. Now they bring in Gala and MCD. So the only Korean player in this tournament. So technically, Ataraxia is mostly a returning team, just under a different banner. They are one of the teams I think probably gets out of this group. I actually think they're probably the best team in this group, if I'm honest with you. I think they have just more behind them. I think they are a team that I just have more confidence in because I've seen them play pretty well. And so I feel pretty good about them. Next is Meta Boys, which I want to say is just Team Poland from this past year. I could be wrong. Maybe there's some players that are different from the former Team Poland. But I want to say this is just Team Poland from the 2023 World Cup. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then the final team here is Aw Yeah, a team that we saw compete last time around. They're kind of a funny team. Honestly, they're kind of a silly team. They have really, I mean, Kaya is basically just like a Junkrat player. That's kind of all they really have there with Kaya. If I could be Kaiser, but I believe it was Kaya. It's a fun team. They were fun to watch. I don't think they're going to get out of this group. I think they're kind of middling, and I don't think they're a really solid, like, full roster. I think what is interesting about this group is I don't think there's a really, really good team. I think Ataraxia is pretty good, and I think they should be the top team in this group. But some of the way the Swiss stage works, it just comes down to who you play. It comes down to luck of the draw. So this group honestly feels like one of the more winnable groups for anybody. I think Aw Yes probably better than Meta Boys, but are they better than Ataraxia and the Abik team? I don't know. So it's tough for that reason. But I think Ataraxia should be the top team here, and then I think the Abik team probably gets out as well. Though I would love to see Aw Yeah get out because I had so much fun watching their game against Sheer Cold to end the group stage before, and I just think they're such a fun team to watch, even if they kind of play a very unique style. They don't play meta type of stuff. Just watching them play and how relatively successful they're able to be playing against the grain, playing things that aren't necessarily traditional or aren't things that you would expect to see, is fun and is enjoyable, and I really like that about this team. And so I think that's pretty cool at the very least. So it's a really fun group we have here. I think generally speaking, I'm excited for this group stage. I think there's a lot of teams that are interesting to watch. I think it's going to be cool to see a really big streamer team make it in, especially when they get to play SSG, right? Round one. Like they get to play round one. They get to play a team with Hottie and Funny Astro. I mean, come on. Like you can't beat SK versus Funny Astro, right? Like, that's just fun. Like that's just a fun thing to have. And so I'm really excited for that. So I think this is a fun group stage. I think relatively cool to see some new teams competing. It'll be interesting to see which teams that didn't make the top 8 before can make it this time around, now that you have a team like Rock Esports that's gone, even if that core is still around in some places. Or where you have a group like Group C, you know, where only Twisted Minds in that group existed before. Like Umbrella Academy, of course, did kind of as Rock. Or Group D, where literally none of those teams existed before and made that group stage, or made the main event, so 2 of them have to, at the very least. So that's pretty cool, and that's going to be fun to watch, and I'm excited to see what happens there. So let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on this EMEA group stage. Who you think's going to make it in? Do you agree with me or disagree with me in any of these groups? It's a little hard to look at what we've gotten so far. We've only kind of seen so much, but I wanted to at least talk about it because it's fun to cover the teams, and it's a good time. So that's going to be all for me for today. Thank you all so much once again. If you enjoyed this video and want more like it in the future, consider liking and subscribing, as your support does help out a lot with the channel. But that's all from me. I hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.